Hey everybody, Eric from TheLonelySpider here, and if you're new to the channel, I am part of something called the fan film community. It's essentially a YouTube community of people who make fan films, whether those fan films are DC related, Marvel related, Star Wars related, just fans making their own interpretations of famous franchises. I'm probably most known for my Spider-Man fan films. If you've heard of me, you probably know I've made a few in the past, and I have one coming up called Spider-Man Power and Responsibility, which is actually pretty good. I really like it a lot. I'm liking how it's coming out, and I can't wait for you guys to see it. Now, I've personally been part of this community since 2016, and honestly, you don't need to be here that long to find a glaring issue with this community. Now, before I go into my rant, I should say that this is a really good community. Most of the people here are incredibly nice and incredibly supportive and incredibly accepting, and it's a very well-knit community. Everyone's close to each other, communication is very easy, and it feels like a small town because everybody knows everybody, and that's something I love about the community. Now to complain about it. Now, for this video in particular, I'm going to be talking about Spider-Man fan films. However, the critiques that I'm about to say are applicable to other fan films, such as Star Wars and Batman and fan films from other franchises. We all know Spider-Man. He's a character in some of our favorite movies. He's part of comic books that we hold near and dear. And while that is a great thing going for Spider-Man fan films, it's also a horrible thing going against it. Because one of the most common things that you will see in the comments section of other people's fan films is, this isn't comic accurate. The Spider-Man community on its own is incredibly toxic. I don't know if it's the fact that the MCU Spider-Man is divisive, whether people like it or not. I don't know if it's the fact that some people prefer other versions over other versions. But it's an incredibly toxic community. And you will find so much gatekeeping in the Spider-Man community, it's insane. Essentially, people hold this character very close to them, and they have their ideal perception on who Spider-Man is. And when they see somebody make a film about Spider-Man, and it doesn't match up with their ideal perception, it creates conflict, and then you get the whole, this isn't comic accurate. I'm going to be honest with you guys. There's no such thing as comic accuracy, because there's been so many different interpretations of Spider-Man over the years. Who is to tell what the definitive one is? I'll give you guys a good example. There's a Spider-Man fan film series that exists called The Spider-Man by Nut Allergy Productions. This Spider-Man series is the furthest thing from comic accurate. Peter Parker straight up murders in this, and if you know anything about typical Peter Parker, he doesn't do that. But with the Spider-Man series, they're not trying to make your typical Spider-Man story. They make a literal dissection and a study on the mantra, with great power comes great responsibility. It's so different, and this Elseworlds Spider-Man is so fascinating, and the whole story they tell is so interesting, new, and deep, that it's one of my favorite fan films out there. Because it's fresh, you won't get anything else like this. Yet people always go to these guys, the Nut Allergy Productions crew, and they say, Peter Parker wouldn't do this isn't comic accurate. Peter Parker wouldn't do this in the comics. Yeah, no, he wouldn't do this in the comics. But this isn't a story based on the comics, it's an Elseworlds story, and it's incredibly deep, and people always just slam it for not being comic accurate. And that's just a great example of why I think this whole need to have things being comic accurate it's not a good thing. It really isn't. And quite frankly, if you want to tell a story that's not comic accurate, do that too. Because if every Spider-Man interpretation is comic accurate, once you've seen one of them, you've seen all of them. I'll give you another example. Given Spider-Man such a popular character, people all over the world want to play their favorite web-slinger. Whether that's Peter Parker or Miles Morales, they want to play that character. Sometimes you'll get people who are a different ethnicity from Peter Parker playing Peter Parker. Personally, I think that's awesome. I encourage it because literally, I believe anyone can wear the mask. That's the whole point of Spider-Man, is he could be anyone. But people feel the need to comment, hey, you're not white. Peter Parker is white. That shouldn't happen. We shouldn't hold the comics to such a regard that we gatekeep people from other ethnicities and other body sizes and other genders and other sexualities from playing a character they love, a character who is supposed to be the everyman. That doesn't make sense to me, because they're contradicting themselves. This isn't comic accurate, Peter Parker's supposed to be, I don't know, it's ridiculous. Now, I consider myself pretty lucky. I think for the most part I do bear a resemblance to the typical comic accurate Peter Parker, so I haven't faced people in my comments saying, you don't look like Peter Parker, that's not comic accurate. But I know people, and I've seen people who don't look like Peter Parker, and they get harassed for it because it's not comic accurate. And to me, I feel that's horrible. Because people should be able to play a character that they love without having people in the comments tell them that they can't. I've literally seen people who get discouraged from making their films because people in their comments tell them, you don't look like Peter Parker. That's terrible. What I'm trying to say is, it doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter what your weight is. It doesn't matter what your ethnicity or race is. It doesn't matter what your sexuality is. If you like the character, you have all the right to put on that mask. Because that's who Spider-Man is. He's anybody. You know? That's why he wears the mask. And if you don't think you can, I'm here to tell you that you can. You could absolutely make a film, no matter what you look like. Into the Spider-Verse was one of the most praised and beloved Spider-Man movies. Like, literally, I haven't seen the Spider-Man community this united on liking something in a really long time. I think probably ever. And that movie really prided itself on the fact that anyone can wear the mask. Like, it didn't matter who you were. Spider-Man is an idea. When you put on that mask, you become something. And to me, it doesn't make sense for these people to go, oh, this isn't comic accurate. Spider-Man isn't like this, but at the same time, they love Spider-Verse. They're contradicting themselves, you know what I mean? I just don't understand that. How can you love Spider-Verse, a film about Spider-Men and women who are all different, coming from infinite dimensions, showing that there's numerous variations on who Spider-Man can be? How can you like that film and say, oh yeah, Peter Parker, he shouldn't be Asian. You know, it makes no sense. It makes no sense. Peter Parker can be Asian. There's no issue with that whatsoever. Oh, and it doesn't just stop at Peter Parker. They hold other characters to an incredibly high regard, too. I know my buddy Hourglass Films has Kingpin in his next film, and Kingpin is played by somebody younger, and people say, oh, Kingpin can't be younger, he's always a mid-40s to early 50s man. It's an Elseworlds story. It's an interpretation of the comic books. It's something fan-made. A lot of people in this community are younger. They're in their teens. They don't have the budgets to hire actors, like professional actors, and so they go with their friends. They go with people they know. And they make an Elseworlds story. They say, hey, in our universe, Kingpin is, say, 20 years old, you know? And I don't see a problem with that, because anyone should be able to play the characters that they love. When people say, oh, your fan film isn't comic accurate, it wasn't like this in the comics, I think they're just trying to hold on to their ideal vision for the character and the franchise. And honestly, listen, I get it. I love Spider-Man 2, as you can tell by my numerous Funko Pops, and the fact that I've made a bunch of films on this one character. But the truth is, anybody can wear the mask. It doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter where you take the character. You see, Spider-Man means a lot to not just an individual, but it means a lot to the world. There are Spider-Man fans all over the world who all want something different from the character. He can be anybody. And I think that's kind of the beauty of it, because it means anybody can have their own interpretation of the character. And why would you want to gatekeep that with your comic accuracy, right? Spider-Man means something different to everybody, you know? Me personally, I think Spider-Man is a sign that no matter what troubles you go through, no matter what life throws your way, you just keep getting up and you just keep doing the right thing. That's my interpretation of the character, that's what I get from him, and I think everyone should have their own different interpretations and values. And to illustrate my point, here are some creators that I managed to get a hold of for this video who would also like to share what Spider-Man means to them.
Spider-Man to me has always been about a human person becoming a hero, becoming extraordinary. I know a lot of people point to Batman for that, but Spider-Man really is the antithesis of someone who is ordinary, rising up to the occasion and taking responsibility for their power and doing good with it.
What does Spider-Man mean to me? Well, pretty much everything. I mean, I grew up with him my whole life, you know, childhood hero and all that, and he's taught me to be better than myself and to grow as a person and to do the right thing and all that, basically, yeah.
Spider-Man helped in teaching me what it's like to be a good person. He really is the best of all of us, and no matter how much pain and suffering that the character has gone through, he always manages to do what's right just because he knows he should. Spider-Man truly is the only superhero that no one really wants to be, but that everyone strives to be like, and that's truly special to me.
So for me, the key part about Spider-Man and what he means to me is that he can be anyone. He's not special, right? He's not outside of his powers. He's just your average guy or girl or whatever you identify as, right? So really, what I'm trying to say here is if people complain that your Spider-Man isn't comic accurate, then don't listen to them, because this Spider-Man or Spider-Woman or Spider-whatever is completely your creation, and you should not have to listen to them. So carry on creating, and yeah.
When I was playing Peter Parker at the time in like my earlier fan films, many people told me that, you know, I couldn't play Spider-Man because I was black. But it was pretty stupid to me, because Spider-Man, like the whole concept of Spider-Man is that, you know, it could have happened to anyone, you know, anyone could have got bit by that spider, you know, and it could have just happened to anyone.
I think the character of Spider-Man in general is meant to be that older brother figure that can be a guiding hand through bad times. Spider-Man as a character in general helped me get through a lot of bad times, and when I was younger, without really a male role model in my life, Spider-Man was that for me. He showed me the difference between right and wrong, and he taught me a lot of the morals that I stick to today, and he makes me want to be a better person. I think is the best way to describe the character. He reassures me and tells me that everything will be okay, even when I think that things are not, you know? He's that optimistic character that keeps me upbeat.
Spider-Man to me is a symbol of hope, that no matter what you're going through, where you are in life, you'll never be alone, that there's always going to be somebody there for you, and that in other people's times of needs, you will be there for them.
I would say that he means kindness. That's the one thing I've learned throughout all the movies, comic books, and shows. So just treat people right, because no matter how big or how small an act is towards somebody, as long as you have good intentions and you do things right for them, it gives people so much hope and happiness in their lives. And honestly, that's one of the best things that I've taken from those movies, is the fact that just treat people right and do right wherever you see it.
What Spider-Man means to me as an individual and character and person is someone who is brave enough to take action, but they're also responsible with it. And it's just like in the movies and shows of, you know, Spider-Man and Uncle Ben, like his words say, just because you have the power to do this thing doesn't mean that you always have to use it, but with a greater responsibility. And I think that's the key point about what Spider-Man means to me.
What Spider-Man means to me is basically everything. From a very young age, I've been a fan of Spider-Man, and he still continues this day to inspire me to be a better person and spread kindness to others that sometimes I can't even spare for myself. It's just crazy how much a fictional character can affect and change someone's life.
Spider-Man to me is one of the most influential characters I've ever known. He's not only an incredible superhero, and the costume's dope, but he's an incredible human being, and it's so hard to put that character on paper. And the first time I ever watched his films, read a comic, it just dawned to me that he's a beautiful human being. And the amount of stories you can tell with the themes of Peter Parker is limitless, endless, incredible. Such an amazing character, and it's something that I strive to be. I strive to be a good human being. I strive to put myself in a shoe of Peter Parker and think, is that something a good person would do? Yeah, there's a lot of things you can take from Peter Parker and Spider-Man, and the best thing you can take is being a good human being.
To me, Spider-Man means never giving up and always trying to do the right thing, no matter how hard it is for him.
To me, Spider-Man is a much more relatable superhero. He's someone who still has to go to work, still has to pay his rent, and doesn't always get the girl.
So yeah, I wanted to show my appreciation to you guys, the fan film community. I like to whenever I can, because you guys are great. It's this circle of fan film creators and future filmmakers that just all happen to love this one character, and it's awesome. Complimenting each other's films, giving constructive criticism when needed. And Lord knows sometimes we need it. And this character is great. I understand why there's such an appeal. Personally, to me, it's the fact that I think anyone can be a hero. It's this teenager / young adult that happens to be a superhero, and it kind of represents that there might be a little bit of heroism in all of us. So just thanks again, and hope to be talking to you guys soon.
So, TLDR, We need to stop telling people that their interpretations and their versions of Spider-Man isn't comic accurate. It discourages creators from creating something absolutely beautiful, all because it doesn't match up with your ideal version of who Spider-Man is. If you want to make Spider-Man some sort of dark, twisted tale and make it a metaphor for everything that he stands for, that's awesome. I love it. If you want to make Spider-Man exist in an Asian country, have an all-Asian cast, that's awesome. Do that absolutely. That's incredible. Because the truth is, there is no comic-accurate Spider-Man. Spider-Man is Spider-Man, and he means something different to everybody. That's all for today, folks. Thank you for watching the video. I'd like to thank everyone who submitted a clip for my video, all these big creators. Thank you guys, and I'll see you around. Just keep creating, guys. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Alright, I'm going to sleep.
Hey Eric, I just wanted to make a quick video at the end of the video, if possible. If your video is going too long and you don't have room to put it in, don't put it in, it's fine. But I just wanted to make a conclusion in my own words, if possible. Again, if you don't have time, it's fine. I just wanted to put in and say my own opinion on the comic accuracy of fan films. And should it be, or better yet, should you feel like you have to? Personally, I feel like fan films are made not for the fans. Fans, of course, will watch them, but it's made by the fans. It's a very big and bold statement, that is, because you're the fan. It should be your personality. It should be your story. I think you should keep the common themes of Spider-Man, keep the common character, but should you make it comic accurate? There's two ways to go about it. One way is, yes, make a full-on comic accurate comic book Spider-Man film. That's awesome. You do that. But I'll say this once, and I'll say it 1,000 times. Imagine seeing one comic accurate Spider-Man film. Great, amazing, love it. Everyone thinks it's like the greatest thing ever. Sweet, you've done a great job. But then another one comes, and it's like, okay, yeah, cool, that's... I mean, it was the same, but it's great. Then another one comes, and it's like... And then the Hollywood films do it. And it's like, okay, I've seen this before, and I don't like seeing it again. It's been told. Like it's been told in comics. You can make your own take, of course, but it's been told. I always say inject your personality into a fan film. Make it yours, make it your own. Change the suit, change the story, change anything you want. Just make it your own. I think that's the best thing I can say, because when you upload it and show it to the world, you want people to remember what that was, what it meant to you, and why it stood out. Yeah, I think that's everything. Just make it your own. You're the fan. It's your creation. It's your Spider-Man.